The slaves of the householder came to him and said, "Master, did you not sow good seed in your field? Where have the weeds come from?" He answered, "An enemy has done this." His slave said to him, "Do you want us to go and pull them up?" He replied, "No, if you pull up the weeds, you might uproot the wheat along with them. Let them grow together until harvest. Then, at harvest time, I will say to the harvesters, 'First, collect the weeds and tie them in bundles for burning, but gather the wheat into my barn.'" He proposed another parable to them. "The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed that a person took and sowed in a field. It is the smallest of all the seeds, yet when full grown, it is the largest of plants. It becomes a large bush, and the birds of the sky come and dwell in its branches." He spoke to them another parable. "The kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman took and mixed with 3 measures of wheat flour until the whole batch was leavened." And these things Jesus spoke to the crowds in parables. He spoke to them only in parables to fulfill what had been said through the prophet. "I will open my mouth in parables. I will announce what has lain hidden from the foundation of the world." Then, dismissing the crowds, he went into the house. His disciples approached him and said, "Explain to us the parable of the weeds in the field." He said in reply, "He who sows good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world. The good seed are the children of the kingdom. The weeds are the children of the evil one. And the enemy who sows them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the harvesters are angels. Just as weeds are collected and burned up with fire, so will it be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send his angels, and they will collect out of his kingdom all who cause others to sin and all evildoers. They will throw them into the fiery furnace, where there will be wailing and grinding of teeth. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Whoever has ears ought to hear." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
They are the signs of summer. Bright sunny days with afternoon thunderstorms, barbecues in the backyard, biting mosquitoes, and the Red Sox are in last place. It seems that some things never change from year to year, even if the Red Sox did win the World Series last season. I am sure that is why we still watch the crawling game of baseball year after year. There is a familiarity and a ritual to it. There is a clear line between good, the Red Sox, and evil, the Yankees. A line between a ball and a strike, safe and out, fair and foul. There is something comforting about a game with such clear-cut lines traced on the field in chalk for all to see. But something is new in baseball this year. We now have instant replay. For all the clear-cut lines in baseball, the umpires still never seem to get the call right. Who could forget that poor umpire Jim Joyce, a 20-year veteran who a few years ago, as the Detroit Tigers were recording the final out of a perfect game, one of the rarest feats in baseball, inexplicably called the runner safe. TV replays clearly showed that the runner was out by a few inches, but at the time there was no way to correct the call. Joyce was instantly vilified for ruining the would-be perfect game. Well, this year, if such an event took place, the manager could challenge the call, and a signal would be sent up to an umpire in New York, sitting in a control center, with access to all of the TV replays, and he could correct the erroneous call. As a manager, you can correct almost anything except for balls and strikes. You still can't correct balls and strikes, and so we'll still be able to shout out, "That was a strike. Are you blind?" What would summer be without that? Now, life is not like baseball. In life, the line between good and evil is not always as clear-cut as the line between the Red Sox and the Yankees. In life, there is no instant replay, no way of instantly correcting a wrong call once made. And in life, there are no umpires, except perhaps the self-appointed ones who try to make the decisions for everyone else. But often they are the ones just how blind we are. Now, I am not saying that there is no good or evil, right or wrong in life, and that we can't learn which is which and how to distinguish the two. God has given us many tools to help us make the right decision. His commandments, the teachings of His church, the voice of conscience within us, good common sense, all of these things teach us how to play the game so as to win. But when it comes to the complicated decisions, the close plays, and especially when it comes to judging someone else's game, we have to be very cautious that we are making the right call. It is very easy to draw a bright white line between good and evil, and to decide which side everyone is on. But have you noticed that when we do that, we almost always place ourselves on the right side of the line? We almost always call ourselves safe. It seems like it's everyone else who strikes out. Something doesn't pass the smell test there. Even Hall of Fame hitters usually only get a hit 1 out of every 3 times at bat. We forget what one wise man once said, that the line between good and evil doesn't run between this person and that person, between this nation or that nation. The line between good and evil runs right through every heart. The truth is, there is plenty of good in each one of us because of how God made us, and there is plenty of bad in each one of us as well because of sin. For every home run we hit, there is usually at least one strikeout. When we see all of the evil and sin in the world, we might ask, where is God in all of this? Is God blind to the injustice that is going on in the world? Isn't He in the perfect place to correct the wrongs, watching over the world like the umpire in New York, with instant access to the truth of the matter and the power to do something to change it? Yet God often seems to do nothing to stop evil. Is God like Jim Joyce, blind to the injustice? These are hard questions. And Jesus' answer takes the form of a parable. The world is like a field, he says, in which the farmer is growing wheat, and an enemy comes in and sows weeds all throughout the wheat. Now immediately the hired hands want the farmer to pull up the weeds. But the farmer has a lot of wisdom and experience. He knows that it's not so easy to distinguish the weeds from the wheat. In fact, the weeds that Jesus was talking about was really a counterfeit kind of wheat. It looked exactly like the wheat as it was growing. And the weeds were poisonous to human consumption, so it was important to get the call right. It was only right before the harvest that you could finally tell the difference between the weeds and the wheat. Now, Jesus told this parable because people were beginning to complain about how much He was hanging out with sinners. They had become self-appointed umpires who judged that those men and women were out. They were evil, and that anyone who befriended them must be wicked too. Now, Jesus wasn't blind to the sinner's sin. He frequently called people to repentance, to new life, to go and sin no more. But He loved giving those people another chance, holding out God's mercy and welcome to them. Yes, they were sinners, but what sinner ever changed because they were condemned? Because the rule that they knew they were already breaking was repeated to them once more. Hearts are changed only in the face of the infinite mercy and love of God, who holds out His hands in welcome to us over and over again. Pope Francis recently said something similar when he was talking about those Christians who would decide for others who is worthy to receive communion and who is not. The Eucharist, he said, is not some prize for the perfect, but a powerful medicine and nourishment for the weak. Now again, Pope Francis is not blind to sin. We all have to receive the Lord worthily and go to confession if we have serious sin before receiving communion. But it is not for me to judge whether someone else is worthy to receive or not. And we usually do far more harm trying to prematurely weed the garden before the harvest time than if we had just left things alone and left them in the hands of God. The farmer trusted and knew that the wheat would be strong enough to withstand the weeds. And in the end, the enemy's plan backfires, because the farmer in the end ends up with both the wheat to eat and the weeds, which make a great source of fuel for burning. When God seems to be doing nothing to correct evil, he is in fact doing something very important. He is showing his mercy. He is giving sinners time to change. He is giving those who judge their neighbor, which is almost always a worse sin than whatever the neighbor is doing, time to stop judging. The truth is, we simply don't have the perspective we need to be able to accurately judge others. We are often like those sitting at home on the couch watching the ball game, thinking that we can see better than the umpire who is sitting right there. We can see people's outward appearance, but we can't see into people's hearts. And God judges the heart. People are going to be very surprised when they get to heaven to see where everyone is. That the sinner who fell again and again, but who struggled and fought and reached up in desperation for God's mercy, may very well be much closer to Jesus at the table than the one who appeared to be holy, but secretly judged everyone else. The umpires will be surprised how often they got the call wrong, and they better pray that in heaven there be some form of instant replay to undo the false judgments they made. In life, there are no perfect games. We all stand in complete dependence on God's mercy. Without God's mercy, every one of us would be deserving of hell 100 times over. The good news is that God did do something about the evil and injustice in our world. He sent his son Jesus to die for us, to take that injustice upon himself so that we might live. That might not seem like much in the face of the crushing evil in our world. To the world, Jesus was just another criminal, judged by his peers, condemned to death, and soon forgotten. But the work of God in Jesus, we are told, is like a mustard seed. It starts very small, but then becomes the largest of plants. With all the evil in the world, what difference can I make? All the difference in the world. The small act of love, the small act of forgiveness, the small act of self-sacrifice can become like the mustard seed, like the small amount of yeast that leavens the whole dough. Small love has a huge effect. And God knows that in the end, if we are patient, that love will win. The wheat is strong enough to withstand the weeds and expand the harvest. In life, as in baseball, we want certainty. We want to be able to say that that person is safe and that person is out. That's fair and that's foul. But the line is not always that clear. When Jim Joyce made the wrong call, which ruined the perfect game, the pitcher, Armando Galarraga, stood there in disbelief. He had every right to be furious, to demand that the umpire be fired, and who would have blamed him? But Galarraga decided to publicly forgive Joyce and to embrace him on the field the next day. One mistake, no matter how bad, could ever erase all the good work that Joyce had done over the years. And even though he had just pitched a perfect game, Galarraga really wasn't perfect either. So who is he to judge his neighbor? In the end, Joyce's terrible decision probably made Galarraga's pitching feat even more famous. There have been 23 perfect games in the history of baseball, but in the end they tend to all run together. They're all the same after all, 27 up and 27 down. There has been only one imperfect game, pitched by Galarraga, and who will ever forget it? May we all be as merciful as this pitcher, trusting that God has the game under control. He decides who is safe and who is out. He makes the calls. He is not blind. In the end, justice will be done. But God knows that we all